I have here with me Syed Faiz Naqshbandi, who is the convener of All Parties Hurriyet Conference, APHC, which is the umbrella organization of pro-freedom Kashmiri political parties in Indian occupied Kashmir. And he represents the APHC and leads it here in Islamabad, in exile, basically. So I call Mr. Naqshbandi. The floor is yours. Mr. Naqshbandi will give the perspective of the Kashmiri people on this report.
Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, Kashmir dispute has two dimensions. One is political, means it is a UN recognized disputed territory for which the United Nations has passed a number of resolutions for its final disposition according to the will of the people to be expressed in a free and fair plebiscite under the auspices of United Nations. And the second one is the human rights. We, the people of the occupied Jammu and Kashmir, are demanding implementation of UN resolution in the letter and spirit. It is said that India has been misleading the world opinion on Kashmir by advocating that the UN resolutions are old, ineffective. This is not true. The UN resolutions on Kashmir are intact, enforceable. In three situations, UN resolutions becomes ineffective. Number one, if the UN resolutions mentions period of time, there is no mention of period of time in resolutions on Jammu and Kashmir. When the United Nations passes another resolution cancelling the old one, it has not happened in our case. And the third situation, when parties to the dispute enter into an agreement that we have resolved the dispute and we don't need now these resolutions and these two with the consent of the United Nations. In all these has not happened in our case. Therefore, our resolutions are intact, and it is not like that India will say it is ineffective and it will become. We, the people of the Kashmir, are demanding the implementation. The principal party are demanding implementation of the UN resolutions. Pakistan, the another party, is demanding the implementation of the UN resolutions. As Mr. Munir Akram Sahib has said, it is the 17th recommendation of the UN High Commissioner's report, wherein he has said, fully respect the right to self-determination of the people of the Kashmir, protected under international law. It is intact. Now I will touch its human rights angle. The human rights violations in Indian occupied Kashmir are so massive and systematic that the government of India has framed a series of black laws that gives unlimited powers to its armed forces to indulge in the human rights violations. These laws facilitates the human rights violations. High Commissioner for Human Rights in para 57 said about administrative detention. What is administrative detention? I will tell you. India has framed a law, it is called the Jammu and Kashmir Public Safety Act. Section 7 of the Act says, if the state has a reason to believe that any person may or is likely to do an act whereby the security of the state is threatened, he can be put in the prison for 2 years. There is no provision of compensation at all under the Act. And this detention, this 2 years detention, Indian law says it is a preventive detention. You are curtailing the liberty of a person for 2 years and you are calling it preventive detention. This is the administrative detention he has mentioned. High Commissioner for Human Rights has mentioned use of pellet guns in para 79. Pellet guns. It is a cartridge containing about 600 pellet, these metal balls, small balls, which are inherently inaccurate once they are fired. And the medical reports show that these pellets have been fired above the abdomen, on the vital part of the body. It is law. When there is a fire on a vital part of the body, it means state has an intention to kill the person. When laws are framed, the violations become systematic. And these cannot be called mere violations. It is the state-sponsored terrorism. When there is a constitutional human rights violations. Even in 2016, the Director General of the Central Reserve Police Force, CRPF, he said 1.3 million pellets have been fired. He admitted on an affidavit before the High Court of the Jammu and Kashmir. Disappearances. Para 92 of this report said about the torture, methods of torture, which the Indian Army have been used in torturing the persons, like para number 86, arrest and disappearances. This report is a true picture of the situation which is in Indian occupied Kashmir. We, the people of the Kashmir, appreciates this report and the suggestion which the High Commissioner has mentioned in its report, establishment of Commission of Inquiry. India has not only rejected this report, but the Indian Foreign Minister said, we will never allow the establishment of Commission of Inquiry. Why? If India says nothing is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir, there is no human rights violation, why you are causing trouble? Why you are not allowing the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry? Let the facts may come to the light. Let the world know what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. In September 2016, the High Commission for Human Rights, in its opening statement, asked access for its UN team visit to the Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir and Azad Kashmir. In March 2017 session, June 2017, and again in September 2017, and in March 2018, constantly High Commission for Human Rights asked the access. India denied. Pakistan granted it, the access, but that was conditional. Conditional in the sense that if India gives the permission, our borders are open. Now, as a neutral person, as a human rights defender, let me comparison between India and Pakistan, their stance vis-a-vis Kashmir. There are 700,000 Indian troops visible in Kashmir, in every nook and corner. There are bunkers, everywhere you can find out Indian army. In Azad Kashmir, no one can see the army. No, not such a deployment. But now second, Pakistan demands implementation of UN resolutions. Says, yes, it is a UN recognized disputed territory for which the final status has not been agreed upon. India says it is an integral part. against the UN resolutions. A member state is under obligation to comply with the UN resolutions. India says, no, it is an integral part, against the UN resolutions. Human rights violations are taking place in Indian occupied Kashmir. There is no human rights violation in Azad Kashmir. Pellet guns have been massively used in Indian occupied Kashmir. We have not heard any shot, any pellet firing in Azad Kashmir. Pakistan says inclusion of Kashmiris, the principal party, supports the tripartite dialogue on Kashmir. India says no, it is an integral part. Why? Pakistan has time and again asked for deployment of UNMOGIP, United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan. But India says no. If India says there is a cross-border, why doesn't India agree to more deployment of UNMOGP offices on the line of control? Therefore, there is nothing to hide so far as Azad Kashmir is concerned. We recommend that the Commission of Inquiry, the fact-finding mission, should be allowed to visit Azad Kashmir. It can further expose India, its stance, and the systematic and the massive human rights violations. Before I will leave, I will just put a question to the audience and to the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Article 6 of the UN Charter says, if a member state persistently violates the principles of the UN Charter, her membership shall be expelled by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. India persistently violates the UN resolutions on Kashmir. UN resolutions have been passed under Article 34, Chapter 6 of the UN Charter. If a denial to the UN resolutions amounts to the denial to the UN Charter, then Indian membership in UN is at stake. I will leave this question, have a discussion, have a food for thought. Thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz.